because I wanted to get a response from you, Amina, to this issue of security. How willing are you to remove your veil in court, for example, at an airport, in a bank, in those sorts of places? Sorry, what did you say up the back there?
How about when the cop pulls you over on the side of the road for a random breath test and says, actually, we want to just verify your ID right here, right now?
No, in front of females, I am more than happy to show my face. And say I was held up on the street by a male officer, I'd tell him, let's go to the office, and in front of a female, I will show my face. So security is not an excuse at all. And on the point of and airports, how many years have we been catching airplanes with no need to see our faces? All we need to do to withdraw large amounts of money from the bank is an ATM card and a PIN number. We don't need to show our faces.
Okay, Amina, probably backtracking just a bit, for the benefit of some people watching this, why don't you want to remove your veil and show your face to a man?
Why should I?
But why specifically not a man? Why would you do it for a woman and not a man?
Because this is not my opinion, it's not my choice. Allah Almighty has ordained that we cover our faces in front of the men and not the women. So right now I'm covering only because there are men around. If it was full of women, I would have uncovered. No problem at all. Can I just attack the point of confronting? Who decides it's confronting? You or me? Like,
society does.
No, wait. I might find something confronting, you might find something confronting, he might find something confronting. Are we going to go and treat each one of them as a criminal and find them? I might find one who's a Gothic or an atheist or a gay person. I might find each one of these people confronting. Am I going to go and propose a bill to find them and treat them like a criminal? Who decides?
Okay, Corey Bernardi, response?
Well, let's go back to this. This is a mask, plain and simple. When our society gets to a point where we think it's okay for people in their day-to-day life to wear a mask, cut themselves off from their fellow Australians and go about their business completely without any comment or adverse reaction, I think we've lost the battle for what is Australian cultural identity.
We are not cutting ourselves from society. You are cutting us from society.
Okay, Sibel, a response from you to that?
I mean, I totally agree with your concern regarding security. However, there are ways around it. Without putting a full ban to the burqa, there are ways around it. For identification purposes, at the airports, for passport, licence, anything that you need to identify my face for, I have no objection. And neither will many Muslim women have no objection. And in regards to your question about if you get pulled over on the side, I've been pulled over and I had no objection whatsoever.
So with a male officer?
Would you require a female?
At that time, if a female is available,
you'd ask for it.
I will ask for a female. If a female is not available, I will settle for the male, because for identification purposes, for security purposes. Coming back to what you said, walking into a bank, do you think if I want to commit a felony, if I want to commit a crime, do you think banning of the burqa is going to stop me from committing the crime? Of course not. So what are you going to do? Are you going to ban all items that lead to theft and robbery? Are you going to ban the balaclava?
Let's not jump from where we were.
Are you going to ban the
point is, if I walk into a bank with a balaclava on or a motorcycle helmet, there is instant alarm in the bank and they're wary. If you walk in there with your niqab or your face veil, they do not. There is no alarm, and as soon as that is the case, where people can walk around without revealing their facial identity outside of a professional circumstance, we are losing one of the things that really binds this society together. It is compromising our security. I have a question for you. If you're a member of Parliament, would you remove your veil in order to vote? Because that's how we identify who is actually voting.
If you need to identify me prior to me voting, I have no objection.
But you'd have to walk in there and you have to sit there without your veil on.
That's fine. I will do it.
This is the point.
That's fine.
This is the point. So you're prepared to do it when it's required,
of course,
right? And yet the rest of the time you say no, it's a religious requirement.
Why is it
this is what I want to do.
It's called choice. That's right. Thank you very much.
But your choice is compromising our society.
If I'm going shopping, what's the reason for me to be
security?
All right, let's start talking very.
What security? Excuse me, just I want to know what security we are talking about here.
The security of a country.
What security of your country?
The ability to identify people.
And you identify people. How many people they make huge problem to the security of Australia, and they are like you,
We can
wearing exactly how you
identify
what you identify what you identify on
They
them.
can see my face on TV.
So
they
what?
can't see this lady.
So
or this
many
lady.
faces like your face.
I'd like to
They can't put a
Okay,
makeup,
we
they
have
can't
to-
put a beard.
Well,
Now
we
you.
all look the same, do we? Is
Yeah,
that
you
right?
look the same.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, dear.
All right, we have to go to a break, everyone. We are going to keep this going. Coming up, we're going to talk about whether the ban is about something bigger than women's rights and security. That's next. Tonight we're talking about banning the burqa and other Islamic full-face veils, whether they should be banned. And as you can hear, it's fairly lively in here, and I think we should have probably been keeping on going during the commercial break. But anyway, could I ask you all please to just quiet down? We are back on air now, and I would like to just start this section by talking to Tanveer. Tanveer, you're a non-practicing Muslim. You're from a Bangladeshi background. Before the break, we were talking about choice, and I'm interested in how much you think this is about choice and how you define choice in the context of this debate.
Jenny, as we've seen, people bring a host of their own beliefs and prejudices to the image of a woman in a burqa, and that's from all sides of the debate, so it stirs immense emotion. We've heard various arguments, be it the unique French sort of staunch secularism of keeping religious symbols out of civic spaces. We've heard about coercion, which is increasingly we've seen isn't the case. So that's another argument that's relatively weak, I think, certainly in Australia. And we've also heard about security, which, while valid, is probably a fringe argument. Now, very interesting, what I want to pick up is people talking about that they've chosen to do it. So in this context, the burqa or the veil is increasingly an assertion of individual identity. Now, this is actually a very modern trend. This is not its original purpose. It's very much a communal garment. But now increasingly we see young Muslims wearing it as an assertion of identity. And that's very Western. It's a very Western thing. Now, we heard from Tariq Ramadan talking about the increasing visibility of Western Muslims. You mentioned that I was a non-practicing Muslim. From my background as a Bangladeshi, I'm fairly rare. It's unusual that I'm a non-practicing Muslim. Several studies around the world have shown second and third generation immigrants of other immigrant groups, non-white groups, most immigrant groups become more secularised over generations. Muslims, increasingly, right around the Western world, become more religious.
Why?
The nature of that religious observance is different. It is very much about assertion of individual identity. It's more political. There's more elements of sort of political protest. They link their own grievances to that of Palestine or Iraq. And also, there's a much more what's termed religiosity. And the notion of that is that they're much more likely to express their observance by outward symbols.
Okay.
Be it wearing a beard for men and women, wearing a burqa, even though, say, from my culture, South Asian, most women back in, say, India, Pakistan, wouldn't wear a veil or a burqa, whereas women growing up here are far more likely to wear a burqa. It's an expression of identity, protest, all wrapped up into one.
Is that the case with you, Amina?
I completely disagree. It's more to do with knowledge. Once you are knowledgeable in where the niqab stands from an Islamic perspective, and I encourage all of you to study about the niqab from an Islamic perspective, you will find it's not about finding an identity. It's not about this or that. It's about pleasing Allah. It's about imitating the wives of the Prophet. That's
Okay,
it.
so Amina, can I ask you, does your mother wear a burqa?
No, she does not.
So why do you wear a burqa when she doesn't?
Who's my mother? Like, each one is for themselves. On the Day of Judgment, I'll be.
But I'm just
standing by
wondering if part of what Tanveer says is correct.
And I'm also like more knowledgeable in terms of where niqab stands than my mother. My mother is probably more cultural, whereas I've seen it from the Islamic perspective.
Okay, Sibel, what about you? Do you relate to anything that Tanveer was saying about it being partly a protest as well as a religious expression?
Well, at the end of the day, speaking on behalf of myself and all the people that I know who wear the niqab, at the end of the day, it is a personal choice. You know, like I mentioned earlier, despite the fact that my male family members were against it, I still decided to wear it. In Islam, we are given, what do you call it? We are told to be modest. Now, every one of us will interpret modesty in their own way. I may express my modesty through the covering of my face, which is fine. Others may interpret modesty as being just covering the scarf, which is also fine. It all comes down to each person's choice of how you define modesty.
That's a very Western argument. So the whole idea of individual choice, she's expressing herself as a Western woman, effectively, but then putting on the garment. Yeah.